Welcome back to the Two Pointers Podcast. I'm Trevor Everett. And as you heard last week, this is going to be a thing we recorded, I believe, 2 days before it was released on that Wednesday. I want to say we recorded it on the 15th. But if you're hearing this, I am in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean, the Caribbean. I'm traveling. Got to get a family vacation in there before we ramp up into the NBA playoffs. Don't worry, I have people catching me up for what happened and all that stuff. I'll be able to rewatch everything on League Pass when I get back. I'm super excited to jump into this. As you'll see in the title, it's end of season awards last week. This week, we actually did like a pre-recorded for this, where you're going to be hearing our kind of not so real awards, team awards, funny ones that we made up, some interesting debates and conversations around the way this season played out. You'll see some of that when we get to it. We went about 45 minutes on that as well. So don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. 5-star rating and review is greatly appreciated. Don't forget, SeatGeek is the presenting sponsor of the Two Pointers Podcast. Big thank you to SeatGeek for their partnership. $20 off your first purchase if you use code Two Pointers, TWOPOINTERS. Again, that's Two Pointers. Link in the top of the description will take you into the SeatGeek website or app, depending on the device that you're on. You're able to make that first purchase. Sporting events, concerts, whatever you're going to be doing this summer, baseball, basketball is going to obviously crank up into the playoffs. Whatever you're doing, $20 off that first purchase. SeatGeek, link in the top of the description as always. So again, like you heard in the title last week, all that stuff, now you're caught up with the pre-record to understand what's happening. Greatly appreciate the support and enjoy the show with the Grayson. Least valuable player. Who did you ultimately end up with?
I, as a diehard Oklahoma City Thunder fan, would be remiss if I did not give this award to the man that gave Steph Curry enough emotion to weep on the floor because he was so tired of his, we'll go with BS for the family-friendly aspect of this podcast. Draymond Green is a detriment to every single thing Steph Curry and Klay Thompson have built in Golden State. How he remains on the roster, on the payroll, after he literally punched Jordan Poole out of town, left this team. He said, I'd go rather play for the 4-win-a-year Wizards than deal with Draymond Green anymore. I have Draymond Green. That's the reason Steph doesn't have 9 rings. It's the reason Kevin Durant left. It's the reason Jordan Poole is gone. I'm sure Bob Myers left because of having to deal with what video guy leaked Draymond Green knocking out a teammate in a practice. When I think least valuable, I mean, name me another guy who got suspended for an NBA Finals game. And that's not this year. I don't care. I'm bringing priors into this because he has like 12,000 of them.
There are certain things that are taken into consideration for this that I knew were going to happen. So my point is like, ultimately, I think you're right, and that's probably the right choice because of the antics. And don't get me wrong, he will be a feature in the NBA Good, Bad, Ugly article that comes out every year on this feed. He will be a focal point for a second year in a row of the Good, Bad, Ugly. You decide where he ends up. Some of the stuff about the championships before is what it is. I went with Jordan Poole. As hilarious connected as the stupid award is, I went with Jordan Poole, which is, when you said it, I just started laughing and I had to beat myself. I went with the guy that is dead last in win shares amongst the eligible 177 players for this award. I still did the 65-game minimum, by the way, for the stupid award. I don't know. I said it out loud when I did it, and I was like, I'm such a jackass. Like, there's no reason I should have done that. But to be clear, he played. Also, how many did Draymond Green play? I don't even think he's eligible with the numbers, which is why
I don't think he was permitted to participate in 65 games because, that's right. He got suspended for the most ineffective stint of mental health rehabilitation in the history of that entire practice. So,
I went with Jordan Poole.
He had
a simple.
the statistical answer is probably Jordan Poole. At least his negatives are all basketball related. He was not suspended midseason to go on some like Aaron Rodgers style retreat with ayahuasca to like find himself. And he came back and was just as bad. So because negative impact spanned beyond the court and affected the team more than just basketball, I went with Draymond, but I will hear every bit of the statistical case for Jordan Poole.
It was just the win shares, to be clear.
Which is staggering when you think about it.
Oh, by the way, I didn't say the number. 0.9 negative. Negative 0.
That always takes effort.
League Pass MVP.
I did this from personal experience, and whether that's an effective way to do it, whatever. I went with Victor.
It's good.
I found myself watching San Antonio Spurs basketball, not from like 2014, 2015, like this year.
I took that in consideration.
Because of what
I watched games even though they were horrible.
Yes. I almost want to close my eyes when he does not have the ball or he's not in transition defense. But it's
a great way to watch the game.
The overall product is so atrocious, but he shines through it to such an extent. I felt bad being a general fan of the NBA, not watching his games.
This is the kind of stupid stuff that comes up when we do podcasts. Can you imagine a deaf person watching him play?
I mean, it would be. I think the effect would be communicated still somehow. It was just
that's like somehow. When you said blind, like when you said like I close my eyes when Jeremy Sohan gets the ball or Trey Jones or whoever. Like I thought about it. I'm like, what if like, and I know commentary is only effective. Like, imagine let me just make this hypothetical even stupider. A deaf person has the best seats in the Spurs arena, wherever that might be, whether you think that's the middle of the court, whether you think that's courtside, whatever. A deaf person watches Victor, no commentary involved. You have no idea what the crowd's doing. Right. Obviously, you can see him reacting, whatever. But just imagine for 48 minutes you watch him deaf. He still has to be the most exhilarating player in the world. It just
you would say this is the best player in the world. I don't care what they have in Denver, what they have in Oklahoma City, who's in Dallas, who's in LA, Milwaukee. It would be, I think, that transcendent beyond the lack of ability to hear the, 4,000 people that sat there in San Antonio past a quarter and a half. But
fun fact, they were top 4 in attendance. So.
Were they really? Okay, well then, league pass and real attendance MVP. Because I promise you, if he wasn't there, wolf. But that
talking about personal experience, by the way. I think it's top 4. I just saw it the other day. I have to look again. But talking about personal experience, I went with Anthony Edwards. That dunk he had alone won him this award. That dunk that
that's a very
I had people texting me that don't really watch the NBA that much and were like, did you see that dunk? And of course I saw that dunk. I was watching it on one of the 72 screens or channels it was on. And he cares every second he's on the floor, even if it's a game against Portland.
Yes.
So I just went with personal experience there, talking about like what we just enjoyed, and I went with Anthony Edwards. I think you're right though, either way. Even if there's not a right answer to every one of these next 5 awards. We already talked about this, but the biggest surprise team is the one that won 17 more games. That was the 10th seed in the West last year as a play-in team at 40-42, and they're first in the West right now. So, please, 30 seconds on the Thunder. Is it? I mean, can we just call it what it is?
I'm surprised. Everyone's surprised. I said we wouldn't be the 1 seed. Literally at the halfway point, at the 50-game mark, I said, there's no way. We'll do a 3 seed. I'll be happy with it, whatever. It's just been incredible to watch. It does not feel real. It still has not sunk in that this is a team that was 40-42 last year. I was exhilarated to win a single play-in game. We then proceeded to lose by like 40 to Minnesota. And I was just like, well, is this it? No, it's not it, because we turn around. We would have won 60 games if Shea had not had the quad issue that they were rightfully very cautious with in the early days of April, which is the way to do it. And they still got the 1 seed in spite of all that. So I think as far as surprising, you could even look at the last week of the season being a microcosm, saying they still beat out Denver and Minnesota, missing Shea for the half dozen games they missed him for, with these teams gunning for it. Until, again, I think Denver might have thrown that game against San Antonio. But be that as it may, the East, I'll hear the Magic. I think them being in the 4-5 matchup, just the depth they found themselves at as an organization before the arrival of Paolo and Franz. And I think there's something to be said for, the coaching job Jamal Mosley did there. And I can't wait to watch them in the playoffs either. But I think for me, the obvious answer is the Thunder.
Most disappointing team?
I got a couple. Just because.
Give me one, because I have a couple.
The Grizzlies feels mean. That feels like low hanging fruit.
Can I give you mine and see if we how far down there? Do you have them ordered? Sure. Do you have a ranking?
I have 3 here in some general order.
I went with Detroit. just the sheer amount of talent for how bad they were. They were a talking point of the league.
They lost like 30 games in a row. When you consider that they pay the coach more than almost all the players, I think
I took that
that's a
consideration as
problem.
well. Yeah.
You can't salary dump the coach. At least I don't think there's a team stupid enough to engage
When
in
he
that.
realized Jaden
except
Ivey
for-
was a good player about 44 games into the season, like, hello?
Yeah. No team other than Milwaukee maybe is going to trade for a coach like that. So I don't know that that's a very prudent thing, but can you blame the players for that? Not really. You mentioned the talent. I would love to see Jalen Duren in Oklahoma City, selfishly, if he
I'd love to see
escapes in
6 of those guys in other places. I mean, just like in general, which is why I was like, is it not Detroit? But it sounds like you have some convincing other teams as well.
Just relative to preseason expectations, more so than the fact that the most depressing team in the NBA was the Pistons. I had the Nets and Warriors here too. The Nets seem content with being in the dead middle, but they even disappointed in doing that. The deadline
they have to, though. The picks.
Quiet.
They literally have to be in the middle. They have no choice.
Yeah, but you can get some of them back to Bridges. I mean, what the hell are they doing with him there?
Yeah, that's true.
And the Warriors, just because I'm a Thunder fan, and it's fun to laugh at their downfall, as self-inflicted as it may be, because of the aforementioned Draymond Green. This is a team that, it's worth mentioning, won a title 2 years ago. The exit of Bob Myers can be blamed for as much as you want to blame. The Chris Paul experiment has been very predictably very ineffective, I would say. It's a shame that he's going to play out the twilight years of his career on the bench for the Warriors. 5 years ago, it's electric. Now it's kind of just a sad footnote for him. Someone from that trio. I'll hear Detroit. They lost, 27 in a row?
Something dumb. I don't even remember. Something dumb.
That game against Boston, they almost broke the streak, but like a 30-point lead was like probably one of the more watched games in the NBA because people were like, oh my God, they're going to win a game. Oh, wait, it's against Boston. So that was, I guess, a bright spot. They lost in overtime. But I think that I will hear every bit of Detroit for this as well.
So this one really, I'll move on to the team that should have been relocated. I put last year, but this really honestly could have just been its own like award at any point in the year, off season, whatever. We're trying to fill space and time, basketball wise. But the Washington Wizards still being in Washington absolutely baffles me when they have a franchise in 63 seasons. They have a franchise winning percentage of 44.7. The last meaningful thing that happened for the Wizards was making the conference semis with Scott Brooks with 49 wins in 2016-2017. They did obviously make 2 with Randy Whitman. They made 2 semis back to back there with John Wall his first couple of years. Before that, it was 2007, it was 2004, 2005. They made the conference semis, which they had like a depleted point, I think, at that point. Before that, it was 96, 97, and that was a first round exit. The last time they made the semis that wasn't the early 2000s was 81, 82. The fact that this franchise, I understand they won a title in 77, 78. The fact that this team exists as we know it is hilarious. So I would love to hear any other answer, and I'd be shocked if there was another answer.
I went more geographic than accomplishments. It's Portland. They're in such a terrible spot.
As soon as you said geographic, I knew exactly what you were going to say. That won't matter soon, by the way, with Seattle. That won't matter soon. Just saying.
I mean, fine. They log more travel miles than any pilot just because they're up in the left corner where people forget about them. They're a forgettable franchise. The highlight of that team the last 20 years was Damian Lillard winning a first-round series. It's sad. I was actually fortunate enough to randomly run into Evan Turner while he was up there, and the first thing I asked him was, how much does it suck to get on a plane for like 11,000 more hours than everyone else in the NBA? And he was like, I heard about it when I went there. I underestimated it. It still sucks. Just logistics alone, it's just insane. It's the equivalent of like Stanford joining the ACC in collegiate sports. They're just so far removed from every other team in the league. And I get planes go 400 miles an hour. It's still absurd how much they travel relative to other teams. I think someone counts that stat because it's online. Because after I spoke with Evan, this was 3, 4, 5 years ago. But
I was gonna say this is a story that I've never heard before, and I love this. Well, at the 136 mark, we got an Evan Fournier name drop.
More.
I love
it was Evan Turner, Celtics legend.
It's Evan Turner.
Yeah, you're good.
Whatever.
We've been doing this too long. So it's one of the most enticing thing about your team is like, hey, they get more like sky miles than everybody else. Like, I think something needs to change. But you mentioned Seattle, Bay Area city deserving of a franchise. They will get one when we expand. So for the sake of that, I think
not if when. I'm with you. Not if
when.
But when.
So I think because of that fact that will soon come to light, the answer will probably shift more east towards the capital, like you mentioned. But just for the sake of they're just stuck up in the top left corner and they're not good, I went with Portland.
The should have been fired last month award, a.k.a. the Adrian Griffin Award, which we now have to rename the Darvin Ham Award.
I mean, the answer is Darvin Ham. I mean, I've seen substitute teachers gain more respect from a room full of people. They just don't care what he has to say. Everything I see from him on the bench is players just not paying attention to whatever he's putting on the whiteboard. He could be writing a social security number on there. It doesn't matter. No one's looking what he's doing. And it's not fair. These coaches get just slaughtered in cities like this when the team sucks relative to where they think they should be. But at some point, he is to some degree responsible. So I will say, if not mercifully so, it just needs to happen from a basketball standpoint. I get if LeBron coaches a team, that's fine. But the person that's there has to at least garner some level of respect, I think, and captivate an audience that doesn't get mocked on Twitter every night for players just getting up mid-huddle, mid-timeout to go do literally anything else than listen to him. Which, again, is not completely his fault, but it's just so blatantly evident. My backup answer was should have never been hired, which was Doc Rivers. But for the sake of the exercise, I went with the new namesake for this, which is Darvin Ham.
Love it. Monty Williams was also considered for the award name, the title, but it was actually named the Steve Clifford Award at one point, and then it had to be renamed. This is a really fun one. I hope this award and this tradition stays on for as many years as this podcast is on the air. And it just changes names. Like it's like the Walter Payton. It's like the opposite of the Walter Payton Man of the Year, like the polar opposite. And I feel like we should look into the history of this more than we probably have. I'm sure the names probably changed if we did the actual tracking of this 2-3 years ago. I'm sure I could find it on Google Doc somewhere. Anyway, all right, this is where it gets kind of interesting. I'm thinking about doing this. I know we had talked about a hypothetical, and I probably should talk to you about this off air, but we've had so much fun with these hypothetical awards, and we still haven't even talked about the play-in, playoff, or finals teams and winners. I might just do this as a two-part. We might just do this as a two-part, so that this is just people hear the stupid awards while I'm on vacation. So we'll get to the play-in team that you're most confident in making a run. And before you answer, I'm just going to tell you I have none of them.
Yeah, I mean, would I put money on any of these? No. I think if I was forced to select a team from each conference, it would be, in my eyes, it would be the 8th seed from each conference, and that is in the West, the Los Angeles Lakers. If they don't throw games and just get bounced, which would be objectively hilarious, and then I have the Heat in the East because it's what the Heat do, and it may be giving them too much credit to just assume they're going to shock the world again or make life hell for a Knicks team that has just been destined for misery. Julius Randle will not participate in the playoffs. I, as a fan, absolutely hate that. This team is the 2 seed in the Eastern Conference, which is great for a market like New York that has been starved for success for a very long time. So I think that the basketball fan in me wants the Knicks to, make the Eastern Conference Finals, but I could also see them without Julius Randle, whether they match up with Embiid or the Heat, honestly, falling victim to an early upset. So, give me the Heat and the Lakers. But like you said off the top, I am like 20% confident combined with those two as far as winning a playoff round, just because I think of how good the top teams are in each conference this year. So it's not a great year for the Cinderellas in the NBA, I don't think.
Yeah, so that's the tough part is like you basically laid it out. Like the paths are just incredible. I mean, like they would
Right.
have to do a war path. The Pelicans I lean towards a little bit, but then after what we saw in game 82, then they have to play the Lakers again. Like it
Right.
just doesn't lay out for them. And then your point about the Knicks like path to the Eastern Conference Finals, it's legit. Like it can really happen.
It's
The more I
not
think about that,
that hard. Yeah.
they would play a potentially hurt Giannis-led Bucks team or a Pacers team who's a 6 seed for a reason. I get they're only 3 games back of the Knicks with a 4 seed difference there. But then the Celtics would obviously have to get through Cavs Magic. So the fact that the Knicks might be playing the Celtics for a spot to go to the NBA Finals would be really awesome for whoever is out of the gauntlet in the West, because obviously the Knicks could potentially be a finals team. I'm just putting it out there because whether Julius Randle, I've made it public how I think about him consistently enough. The problem is they've been good since he's been gone.
That's a fair shout too. Yeah, I mean it's not out of the question. They're not in the Celtics half of the bracket, which I think is huge for any team in the East, frankly, to make a run. Needs 2 rounds. So yeah.
The other problem I would have is you're sure as hell not picking Atlanta. You're sure as hell not picking Chicago.
No.
At that point, do you really believe in the Heat? And the Sixers, as bad as we think they could consistently, obviously we're thinking like, okay, Embiid's back. They have a Joel Embiid for crying out loud. Now, do I, of all people, want them to win because of that ticket I sent you three and a half weeks ago? Of course I do. Yeah. I want the Sixers. I want the Sixers to be bounced tomorrow. But look, the hope is still alive. They're a 7 seed. They would need to lose, obviously 7-8. They would have to lose to Bulls or Hawks, and I don't feel great about that. So. With a healthy Trae Young, you could see something like that maybe. I don't know. I'm okay with losing money. It's just the fact that I want a better playoffs, even if I want to win more money. And I think the Sixers making it would be better for the playoff series. Knicks Sixers would be better than Knicks Heat. Sure. So ultimately, the answer to the question, I think we agree, is none of them because the paths are too difficult. Yes. So the playoff team that we are most confident in letting us down. I don't say your old team for crying out loud. It's just not.
No, I thought about it. I really, really did. But no, it's the Bucks. My team is not
down. It's not a real letdown. They're not. It's not a real letdown if they let you down.
They're the 1 seed. This is such house money. I mean, please God, don't lose the 1-8.
The top 4 seed was house money. Okay, that's why I'm saying it doesn't matter. So who would be the biggest letdown? You said the Bucks. Why?
Yeah, just because the Giannis calf piece of it, the Middleton hot and cold aspect of it. He's not quite the Robin he was when they won a title recently. Drew Holiday does not play for this team anymore. I think
Drew Holiday, by the way, let me make this abundantly clear because you may not remember this. The same Drew Holiday, less than 18 or 24 months ago, I don't remember when the exact report came out, said that, I think it was right after that Olympics, so it may have been a year ago. He said that, this is when he was in Milwaukee still. He said that once this current contract runs out, I'm starting to feel like I'm ready to retire. Something to that nature. I'm paraphrasing. He just signed a 4-year, $80-something million extension or whatever it was.
A lot of money. Yeah.
Okay, like that just shows you how impactful he's been and how revitalized he is. For him to go from, I kind of want to retire on the Bucks to, I kind of want a 4-year, $80 million deal or whatever it was. So just wanted to make that abundantly clear. Drew Holiday was thinking like Cabo 3 months ago, whatever it was. So anyway,
as was teammate Al Horford before his OKC rehab stop. So I think that's fun. Old guy still playing trivia, but who's the better coach in round 1, Rick Carlisle or Doc Rivers? The fact that that's even,
I'm not as big of a Rick Carlisle fan as probably a lot of people should think I might be.
Not either, but it's who my less low on.
I hate them both in this series. So
I wouldn't handpick either one of them to be abundantly clear. But when you're seeding that to a 6 seed that plays literally no defense whatsoever, I think that's a bit of a red flag. And the Bucks, again, they don't see the Celtics. They're in that lower half of the bracket. But I think the Pacers are a live dog as far as, like, if I had to pick a series upset first round without seeing how the play-in plays out, I would go Pacers over Bucks. And you can bake as much of Giannis's injury into that as you want to. But we are 4 excellent Halliburton games away from when is Giannis getting traded?
Which happened in the regular season. Just saying.
Oh, yeah. And then they got Dame, who, speaking of no defense, if Dame goes 3 for, what does he usually shoot? 3 for 19 in an elimination game, and they lose, that is going to be a tough time to be on Twitter, to say the least. I mean, I think they're still teetering just because of, and if Giannis is 100%, I'm not as saying this with near as much conviction, but I think that this Pacers team with nothing to lose, with the addition of Pascal Siakam, which a lot of people, including me from time to time, completely forget about. I think
when he's out there, though, he's great.
Yes.
It's been incredible.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I'm trying to figure out how to word this. On the disappointing power rankings, I did the math. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 teams that are ranked from 3 to 6 out of the 8 teams that are eligible for this. If they lost, it would be considered a disappointment. Okay. Clippers, Mavericks, Timberwolves, Suns, literally that entire cluster. If any of those teams lost, it would be a disappointment. Cavs and Bucks.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I don't really have a question. I'm just trying to figure out, like, A, are we on the same page with that? And B,
that Clippers-Mavericks series is going to shape narratives for a long time.
So that answers
whether
my question.
Or not it should. Yeah.
Is that the one with both teams have the most to ride on?
Oh, I think, yeah. I mean, the Clippers have a new arena to pay for, and if you get bounced by Luka for like the 7th time in a row, that's not conducive to Steve Ballmer's grand vision for this franchise, regardless of where they play. I mean, they're not a one-man team, to be clear, but if the consensus around casual NBA viewers is it's Luka, maybe Kyrie, and then I don't know, and they're beating the 5 years too late assembled super team, the Clippers, again. With Kawhi, there's swelling in the knee per Shams, who is known to tweet to inflate NBA betting odds. So who knows where his head's at with that. But I think it'd be unfortunate if a Kawhi injury or any other injury played a significant role in this series, because I think these two teams are so good, and this will be, in my opinion, one of the better round one series, at least on paper, as we sit here before they begin. But I think, yeah, as far as like, and if Dallas loses in 5, just talking crazy here, when do the Kyrie whispers start? Like after like game 3? I mean, he's not one known to be content a lot, and he has somehow endured anything for his sake insane this year. But if they get bounced round 1, I mean, does he start looking around? I mean, we talked about the Giannis trade smoke. Is there Luka trade smoke? Does he demand a trade to Denver? I mean, that series is going to do a lot for these two teams going forward. I think it's going to change timelines the most, honestly.
It's a beautiful way to put that, to end it. That's all the questions that we had. Obviously, the final one that kind of leads up to everything. Again, for recording's sake, whether this goes out this Wednesday or a week, I think it'd be like the 24th or whatever. Nothing's really going to age poorly at this point, so just know that we are recording this. Whether people hear this when or there, doesn't matter. Who wins the finals, or who makes it out of the East and West, and who wins the finals and why?
So my true answer, one that I hope is wrong, is I think the Celtics beat the Nuggets. It's boring. It's the two best teams, you can argue, on paper. I think the Celtics are the best team on paper, obviously. But if I was putting dollars on it, if I had one pick, for $1 million or whatever, I would say Celtics over the Nuggets. The Celtics feel inevitable in the East, but we've had teams in the past, specifically Celtics teams in the past, that seem destined for a title fall short. I think I'd be shocked if the Celtics did not exit the Eastern Conference with another finals berth, and I think this time they break through and win one. What my heart would love to see, just because of what it would mean to both fan bases and how fun that series would be, think about the venues that a finals would be in. Thunder Knicks would be, I think, incredible. You talk about two arenas that would be just absolute riots for, I would hope 7 games. That would take decades off my life. So like the fun fan in me says Thunder over Knicks, just because I don't think we beat the Celtics in the finals if we get there. So selfishly, I'm going to pick somebody else. Yeah, official answer, as an NBA consumer, Celtics over Nuggets, but then the Thunder fan in me would love to see Thunder over the Knicks.
You can get that. You can get Boston, Denver at plus 250. The next closest.
That's insane.
Just to play each other. Yeah, plus 250.
Right. Yeah.
You want to get. You want to guess who the second Boston versus is, and what their odds are? That would be fourth.
Really?
Don't look it up. Try it. Try to figure it out.
I'm looking at the
you're
teams.
looking at the list.
Yeah, Phoenix?
They would be fifth.
It can't be Minnesota, is it?
They would be sixth.
What am I? Is it the Thunder?
It is. Boston, Oklahoma City
is plus 600-ish?
Plus 950.
Ugh, that seems fair.
That's I mean, like, I get it. One seed, I get it. But, like,
right.
Whoa. Like, Dallas, by the way, third at plus 1,000.
You know, with the Kawhi news, potentially, if Shams is to be trusted with integrity, actually not a bad shout. The national discourse on the Thunder is, oh, they're all young, they suck, which we'll see.
Boston to beat Denver, like you said, plus 520. Mm-hmm. Denver to beat Boston, plus 610. And then a significant jump to Boston beating OKC, plus 1480.
The fact that any of those are south of 10-1, for those not in tune with the gambling aspect of this, is insane. Like, think UConn title level chalk. That's crazy.
Oh, Boston Denver, you mean?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I think that would plus 520. That's worth the shot. I think that's my point. Yep.
Oh, if you're gonna bet it, you've got to bet that. But as far as the meeting, but that's that is, and we'll see. I've seen crazier things. If Thunder win a championship, I am going to be so just unbearable on every aspect of communication, both through social media and like running through the streets of my apartment complex.
Possible, like it'll have to be a YouTube Premium stream or something. Like because I'm still clean. I'm gonna have to
with
give
the warning.
I'll
figure
something. One, I don't know.
Heavily intoxicated. Two, I don't know if HBO would air what I would say after a Thunder championship, but I would do my best, but I would be probably sobbing, to be clear, but that would be incredible. And you have my exclusive post-game reaction rights, so no worries there.
Oh yeah, and we hadn't even talked about it yet, but that sounds great because I know that was really fun last year doing those 30-minute right after the things.
Oh, it was amazing. Yeah.
It was great. I hope we get more than 5.
That'd be nice.
I was gonna ask, like, on the way out, like, what's the Celtics, like, what's the reason that they don't make the Eastern Conference Finals? But then I looked at their path again and went, it's Cavs Magic.
They're beating them, comes out of that. Which I think.
So yeah, I don't know.
Hot take. It's Orlando.
Yeah, it's interesting. I didn't want to dive into playoff matchups too much today because I didn't know because of the vacation, didn't know when this was going to time out. But
because Cleveland lost to Charlotte Sunday, which takes concerted effort, to be clear, and trying to maneuver around seeding, I think they're destined to lose round 1. The Celtics are going to beat whoever comes out of that 4-5, and then is Giannis 100%? Is Giannis even still playing? Is it the Knicks? Is it the Pacers? Is it the zombie Heat? Who knows? Is it Embiid? There's so many. I think if the Celtics do not get to the Eastern Conference Finals, something just horrible has happened to where players that are on their team are not on the court, which I don't want to happen for any team, playoff play-in, etc. So talking about just bare bottom floor, they got to win 2 rounds.
Again, the crazy thing is people have already brought, I think Bill Simmons and Ryan Russillo did this on Sunday. It would be considered one of the biggest failures in the recent Boston sports history for a team.
Oh, without a doubt. They were the one of the more dominant regular season teams ever.
To not make the finals, not even the Eastern Conference Finals, to not make the finals, which is crazy.
Hey, that's fair. That really is fair.
It feels, the more I look at it, how weak it really is. And really the only reason we didn't make playoff predictions today to lead us into the second full hour was that I didn't feel like it was a service to both of us that we just got the seating yesterday, so I don't feel like it was enough time to process everything. Right. And then B, we know there's some injuries up in the air. These guys could be healthy by the time the play-in is finished and they actually play this weekend, which sucks. I'm literally going to be in Orlando next weekend, and if Orlando had freaking beat whoever it was, if Orlando had beaten Cleveland, they would have had a home freaking playoff game on Saturday. Oh my God, I'm still so angry at that. Like, I could have been in, I don't care what it's called now. To me, it will always be the Amway Center. It would have been arena number 5 on the list, checked off the box. I'm so mad that they just had to lose to whoever it was. It was like the 2 games or whatever they lost. I'm not pulling it up. I don't care.
Right. Yeah.
But they could be the home team over Cleveland instead, and I think they would have had the tiebreaker, which is stupid. Yeah, I'm pissed off. And then Clippers, Mavs, Timberwolves, Suns. Again, there's too much riding on those series, and we don't have. We don't have 4 of the teams. And obviously, last year, the reason I didn't want to throw anything out the window is because Miami did what they did last year.
Yes,
we talked about them for 5 games.
They absolutely did. Yeah,
which is ridiculous. So, all right, any parting thoughts on this season? Any nominees for good, bad, ugly, anything like that? I haven't really even had time to process that information yet, but it's coming sooner rather than later. It'll be out. I think I released it after the actual season in the playoffs in case something stupid came up. I don't know. It'll be out. It'll be out after the finals. I think that would do it justice in case something ridiculous happens in the finals that deserves to be in it. But anything, regardless of what I just said, any parting thoughts?
I'm looking forward to a playoffs full of, the veteran guys we mentioned, the young guns, Lucas Shea, Ant, Paolo. I'm leaving a million guys out, Halliburton, whatever. Just the kind of like blend we have of kind of a couple different eras. We're going to get to see head to head. We're going to get to see play off Shea Gilgeous-Alexander, play off Paolo Banchero. Those are going to be 2 incredible, ones to watch as far as how far they can lead their teams. Different expectations there. But again, I think that the NBA has, with this play-in tournament, put its best foot forward. I was highly against it initially. But I think years like this where we still get the chance to see Tyrese Maxey, Joel Embiid, we still get to see the Warriors, the Pelicans, LeBron and AD, these teams that, some of those are 7-8, but I think the fact that we have something to watch that's very compelling before we can get to the playoffs, where we get down to 8-8, I think it's going to be really, really fun to watch. It's kind of the appetizer, the lead into, in my mind, one of the better playoff formats in all of sports and how it plays out. And, legacies get made here, things fall apart. And it's going to be a heck of a ride. As a Thunder fan, I'm terrified to see what comes out of this first, Presti said it preseason this season. They want to make an arrival, not an appearance. And they have accomplished that through 57 regular season wins, number 1 seed in the West, et cetera. MVP finalist, coach of the year, at least finalist, 6th man, maybe finalist. I could go on, but it's selfishly as a Thunder fan, it is really exciting and also very terrifying. And I'm going to be glued to my TV, 1, so I can update you while you're out cruising, and 2, just praying that the Thunder can at least get past, 2 rounds of this postseason, be within 4 games of the finals. So it's going to be incredible to watch. The people that only watch the NBA playoffs, I get it. I would encourage you to watch the regular season so you could see Victor Wembanyama play. But as far as the playoff only people, I think you're in for an excellent product again. So I'm excited to watch it play out.
As much as I love the regular season, it's just there's nothing like the NBA playoffs. It's very similar to the NHL playoffs where things just crank it. I mean, it's just so much more entertaining, and I can't wait for the crowd of people that are like, oh my God, like Victor Wembanyama, who's this guy? I can't wait for them to figure that out, right? Which is going to be incredible. I petition though, like as awesome as the play-in is, I petitioned it to like be shifted somehow to be on a weekend. I feel like that would be better. Like the NBA regular season should have ended in the middle of last week, and we should have had the play-in this weekend. My counter argument to myself would be the freaking Masters was on, and I promise you
that's the issue.
This was the most. I love the Masters, and I watch at least some of every single round every single year. Sorry to my boss if he's listening. I watched more Masters this weekend than I've ever watched in my freaking life. It was the best. It was incredible. I haven't listened to the pod yet, unfortunately, because I haven't been traveling as much this week. But did you ultimately have Scotty? I know y'all talked about it on the pod.
Yeah, me and Jacob we kind of agreed that Scotty's chalk pick. Scotty should win. We both gave alternates, but with the understanding that this is Scotty Scheffler's Masters to lose, and he sure as hell played it out like that. So we, for the sake of the exercise, kind of DQ'd Scotty Scheffler and took selections from the field to challenge him. We were both not very close, but no one was. He won by 4 shots. So
people had Hideki and that kind of there was just
right. That's who I went with. Yeah,
so, right. That's okay. Then that saves me 20 minutes of. No, I'm kidding. But yeah, I don't know how I turned this into a Masters podcast, but ultimately, he just. I mean, it's unreal. I wish I could talk about the Masters for 45 minutes, but people are listening to this and do not care. I would have been screaming on this podcast from the Open that I was a homosexual, to be completely clear, right? If Max had won that plus 750 winner, man. I mean, he was second when I placed it. Oh my God, I can't believe it. I might cut that out, but anyway, plug the 1009, plug all the other stuff, anything y'all are working on, etc. As we crank up baseball, as we crank up NHL playoffs, I'm sure it'll come up at some point. Maybe not from the other cohorts, but maybe from you.
Yeah.
I told you I'm only going to be at a playoff game if they're in the Stanley Cup Finals here than Hurricanes. But plug away, talk about whatever, and then we'll get out of here.
Yeah. So me and 2 of my college roommates, we were all hydration specialists at Clemson. We now have a podcast together called the 1009 Podcast, Apple and Spotify. We're not too hard to find at this point, which is nice. But we're talking all things Clemson sports. So that right now is baseball, softball, spring game. The Elite Eight run, the basketball team, just went on to the shock of everyone, including me, who may or may not have said less than great things about Brownell for at least 2 years now. But it's all forgiven because they went on a magic run. And I'm kidding, not really. We just lost half team in the portal. But that's not important. The baseball team is top 5 in the country. That's cool. We'll be talking about that, talking Masters, how wrong our picks were, how Scotty Scheffler is not human, etc. Did not have to welcome a child as he led the tournament, which was good. He can be back with his wife and didn't have to walk off the Masters as the leader, which would have been insane. We'll talk Tigers weekend, as dismal as that may have gotten. Like you mentioned, we got some playoff things heating up. I am the sole, I think, consumer of hockey as a Canes fan. So until we lose to Florida or Boston per annual tradition, I will be talking Hurricanes hockey. The NBA, they're kind of hit or miss. I watch all the time, as you've heard for the last 2 hours. So I will be shouldering the load with NBA, especially if the Thunder, God forbid, make a run. I will be just unbearable on those airways with that. But lots of stuff to talk about, including MLB as we get into the dog days, get it to probably late June, July, when the NHL, NBA crown champions. We'll have just baseball, and we'll have a ton of stuff to talk about with that. So like I said, the 1009 podcast on Twitter at the 1009, and you'll find all our links on the Twitter.
Love it. Everything will be linked in the description below, as always. And for the 774th time, and then add 5 more to whatever number I just said when we get to, at some point, I'm sure, in the playoffs, and then also, depending on Thunder results, of course, and then also, we'll be recapping. It sounds like you're in for the recaps as well for the finals, so that should be a whole lot of fun at probably this hour, give or take. So as we're recording this, ready. But yeah, early prep for it. But at 1009, at Grayson Hill, all that _Hill will also be linked at the top of the description. Thank you again, as always.